smell perceives fragrance, taste savors flavors, sight beholds, colors hearing captures sounds, touch feels, textures each sense experiences its own unique reality. Yet they are all connected to the greater whole. He paused his gaze, turning inward as if gazing into the depths of the soul. And then there is the soul, a being untouched by qualities, unencumbered by the burdens of existence. It is the source of emancipation, guiding us toward liberation from the cycle of birth and death. As the Brahmana spoke, his words conjured images of a world where the sacred and profane coexisted in harmony. He explained how those who have learned and understood the mysteries of the universe, partake in the Kshetrotra, sacrifice their senses and qualities, lightening with the cosmic order. But what about those who are unlearned? He asked, his tone taking on a note of caution. They become entrapped by the sense of mindiness, believing that everything belongs to them alone. They devour food without mindfulness, destroying not only the food, but also their own essence. Of Brahmana's eyes locked onto the ladies, filled with compassion and understanding. Yet for those who have gained knowledge and wisdom, the Kshetrotra sacrifice is a journey of self-discovery. It is a path where they learn to transcend the limitations of the senses and connect with the divine within themselves. As he concluded his tale, the Brahmana's voice rose in reverence. The sacrifice of yoga is an ongoing process for those who seek emancipation. The spring of knowledge is its source, the breath of life. Prana is its sutra, and renunciation is its dakshaya. Consciousness, mind, and understanding become Brahma, Advaryu, and Ut. In a quiet moment of contemplation, the Brahmana began to speak about the mysteries of the universe. There is one ruler, he said, his voice filled with conviction. He resides in our hearts, guiding us every step of the way. I shall tell you of him. As he spoke, the Brahmana's eyes seemed to gaze inward, as if recalling a profound truth impelled by him. I move as directed, like water flowing downhill. He said, his words painting a vivid picture in the minds of those who listened. It was as if they were witnessing the very movement of the universe itself. The Brahmana's thoughts turned to the preceptor, another aspect of the divine presence within each individual. There is one preceptor, he declared. He resides in our hearts, guiding us toward wisdom and understanding. The Brahmana's words were like a gentle breeze on a summer day, soothing and calming the souls of those who listened. As he spoke, the Brahmana's gaze shifted to the kinsman, yet another facet of the divine within each person. Instructed by him, the Brahmana said, we become connected with our own true nature, and the seven rishis shine brightly in the firmament. The image was breathtaking, a celestial tapestry woven from threads of light and wisdom. The Brahmana's words continued to flow like a river, revealing the dispeller, that force which clears away ignorance and frees us from bondage, having lived with that instructor under the proper mode of living. He said, Sekar attained to the sovereignty of all the worlds. The image was awe-inspiring. A great came rising to his rightful throne, but there was also another aspect of the divine presence within each individual, the enemy. There is one enemy, the Brahmana declared, who resides in our hearts, tempting us toward darkness and ignorance. His words painted a stark picture, a shadowy figure lurking within, seeking to lead us astray. Even this dark force could be transformed, for as the Brahmana said, instructed by that preceptor, all snakes in the world are always endued with feelings of animosity. The image was both striking and poignant. Creatures once consumed by hatred, now freed from their bondage. A story of the instruction of the snakes, the deities, and the rishis by the Lord of all creatures was an ancient one. They had gathered around him, seeking wisdom and guidance. Let that which is highly beneficial for us be declared. They asked in unison, and the Holy One replied with a single word. All the response was immediate and varied. The snakes ran off in different directions, their nature leading them to bite and strike. The Isras were consumed by pride and ostentation, while the deities sought to appease through gifts. The great rishis, however, turned inward, seeking. In a world fraught with danger and uncertainty, a wise Brahmana stood at the edge of an unforgiving landscape. The ground beneath his feet was treacherous, where grief and joy wrestled like opposing forces, and cupidity and deceit lurked in every shadow. Yet he declared that he had crossed this perilous terrain and entered the vast expanse of the forests of Brahm. And his wife, a woman of great curiosity, approached him with questions. Where is this wondrous place, dear one? She asked. What are its trees, its rivers, its mountains and hills? The Brahmana's eyes sparkled as he began to describe the forest that lay before them, There exists nothing separate from it. He said, nothing more delightful than it, nothing unseparated from it, nothing more afflicting than it. As he spoke, his words conjured vivid images in their minds. The forest was a realm of breathtaking beauty, where 7 majestic trees stood tall, their branches heavy with 5 colored flowers and fruits that shone like jewels. 7 rivers flowed through the forest, each one bearing waters born from Brahma himself, and amidst this splendor 7 hermitages stood, each one a sanctuary for those seeking enlightenment. Brahmana continued to paint a picture of this mystical realm. 7 guests reside here, he said, and 7 forms of yoga, concentration, and initiation are available to those who seek them. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and fruits that were possessed of fragrance and color, and at the heart of this forest lay a single fire, kindled by good intentions and connected to the sacred Brahmanas. He spoke. The Brahmanas' words seemed to transport his wife and himself to a realm beyond the mundane world. They saw great rishis accepting hospitality in diverse places within the forest, their presence imbuing the air with an otherworldly energy, and when these wise ones were worshipped and transcended, another forest emerged, shining forth like a radiant jewel. In this second forest, intelligence was the tree that stood tall, its branches heavy with the fruit of emancipation. Tranquility was its shade where knowledge rested, and contentment flowed like a river. The Kshikrajna, the all-seeing self, shone brightly as the sun at its center, and 7 females dwelled here, their faces turned downwards in reverence, their effulgence illuminating the path to enlightenment. As the Brahmana's words wove a spell of wonder and awe around them, his wife asked no more questions. Instead, she listened with rapt attention as he spoke of the 7 rishis who resided within this sacred realm, crowned with ascetic success and accompanied by their wives Vasishta, among them glory, effulgence, greatness, enlightenment, victory, perfection, and energy. These 7 qualities followed in their wake like rays. In a tranquil setting, a wise Brahmana shared his profound understanding with his esteemed guest, the Adhvaryu. The Brahmana began to speak about the nature of existence. I do not smell scents. I do not perceive tastes. I do not see colors. I do not touch, and I do not hear diverse sounds. He explained that it is nature itself that desires certain objects and hates others, and that desire and aversion arise from this fundamental force. The Brahmana revealed that he had transcended attachment to worldly desires, just like a lotus leaf remains untainted by the water's droplets. As they conversed, an Adhvaryu approached them during a sacrificial ceremony where a goat was being sprinkled with water. A Yeti seated nearby observed the same, then addressed the Adhvaryu in disapproval. This is destruction of life. The Adhvaryu calmly responded, this goat will not be destroyed. That part of this animal which is of earth will go to earth. That part born of water will enter into water. His eye will enter the sun, his ear will enter the different points of the horizon. The Yeti countered, saying, if thou beholdest such good to the goat in this dissociation with his life wins, then this sacrifice is for the goat. What need hast thou? Where the Adhvaryu's words sparked a lively discussion between the Brahmana and the Yeti. The Yeti argued that if the goat's life force was indeed released during the sacrifice, then why did the Adhvaryu need to participate in the ritual? He emphasized the importance of respecting all living beings and abstaining from cruelty. The Brahmana listened attentively as the Yeti continued. Abstention from cruelty is the foremost of all duties. Even this is the teaching of the elders. We know this is the proposition. There's no slaughter of living creatures. The Adhvaryu, however, remained unconvinced and retorted, thou enjoyest the properties of smell which belong to the earth. Thou seest colors which belong to lighted bodies. Thou hearest sounds which have their origin in space. He pointed out that the Yeti's actions were contradictory to his words. The Brahmana intervened, explaining the dual nature of the soul. The indestructible and the destructible constitute the double manifestation of the soul. Of these, the indestructible is existed, the destructible is said to be exceedingly non-existent. As the conversation unfolded, the Adhvaryu began to see things from a new perspective. He expressed his admiration for the Yeti's wisdom and asked if he could reside with those who were good and follow their teachings. The Brahmana smiled, knowing that the Adhvaryu had finally grasped the essence of the discussion as the great sacrifice proceeded freed. In the ancient times, there lived a mighty king named Parthavirya Arjuna, who possessed an incredible 1,000 arms. He was renowned for his unmatched prowess with his bow and arrow. With his extraordinary might, he had conquered the entire earth extending its boundaries to the shores of the vast Ocean. One day as he strolled along the Ocean's edge, proud of his conquests, he began to shower hundreds of arrows at the majestic sea. The Ocean, humbled by Kartavirya Arjuna's display of power, bowed down in reverence and pleaded with him to stop his relentless barrage. O Hera, do not unleash your arrows upon me. What shall I do to appease you? The Ocean asked, its gentle voice carrying the weight of urgency. Those creatures seeking refuge within my waters are being slaughtered by your mighty shafts. Brandam's safety, O mighty King. Kartavirya Arjuna, still basking in his glory, retorted with a challenge. If there exists another wielder of the bow who can rival me in battle, name him to me. The Ocean, knowing that such a warrior did indeed exist, replied, Hero, king of the great Rishajamadagni, his son Rama is capable of receiving you as a guest. Moved by his pride and wrath, Kartavirya Arjuna set out to meet this mighty Rama. Upon arriving at Jamadagni's retreat, he found himself face to face with the very person he sought. However, instead of being received as a guest, Rama was met with hostility from Kartavirya Arjuna and his kinsmen. They began to cause trouble for Rama, who with his boundless energy unleashed his fury upon them. Rama's immeasurable power blazed forth, burning the troops of Kartavirya Arjuna like dry leaves in a wildfire. With his battle axe in hand, he struck down the thousand-armed king, hacking him down like a mighty tree. Witnessing their leader fallen and prostrate on the ground, Kartavirya Arjuna's kinsmen, united and armed with darts, rushed at Rama from all sides. Rama, unflinching in his resolve, took up his bow and ascended his chariot, showering arrows upon the army of Kartavirya Arjuna. The Kshatriyas, terrified by Rama's prowess, fled to mountainous regions like deer fleeing from a lion. Those who were unable to perform their duties due to fear became Vrishalas, while those born to Brahmana mothers. But Kshatriya women lost their heroic lineage. Slaughter continued for 21 times, with Kartavirya Arjuna's descendants being. In the ancient days, there lived a great king named Alark, renowned for his unyielding austerity and unwavering dedication to duty. His was a name whispered in awe by the people of his realm, who marveled at his conquests and feats of strength. With his trusty bow he had vanquished the entire earth, extending from sea to sea, and achieved a feat that few could match. But Alarka's mind, like a restless wanderer, began to yearn for something more subtle, something beyond the reach of mortal men. As he sat at the base of a majestic tree, his thoughts turned away from the grandeur of his conquests and towards the mysteries of the universe. His mind, once fixed on the external world, now sought to penetrate the depths of its own inner workings. Alarka's resolve was firm, yet he knew that his greatest challenge lay ahead. He gazed at his mind with a mixture of determination and trepidation, for he understood that it would not yield easily. My mind has become strong, he declared. Having conquered the mind, one's conquest becomes permanent. With this bold assertion, a lark set out to tame the most unruly of beasts. His own thoughts, he began by targeting the senses, seeking to vanquish them with whetted arrows. First he aimed at the nose, which craved the sweet scent of perfumes. Smelling many perfumes, a lark said, the nose hankers after them, only hence I shall shoot whetted arrows at the nose. But the nose, like a cunning adversary, retorted that such arrows would pierce Alarka's own vital parts, and he would die undeterred. Alarka turned his attention to the tongue, which savored the taste of sweet words. This one, he said, enjoying savory tastes, hankers after them, only hence I shall shoot whetted shafts at the tongue too claimed that it would not be vanquished so easily, and Alarka's own vital parts would suffer the consequences. The battle between Alarka and his senses continued, with each sense claiming immunity from the king's arrows. The skin, touched by diverse objects, hankered after them. The ear, hearing diverse sounds, craved more. The eye, seeing many colors, yearned for its fill. Each sense declared that it would not be pierced by Alarka's whetted arrows. As the king reflected on his failures, he began to realize that his senses were merely symptoms of a deeper issue. The mind itself was the source of all turmoil. He turned his attention towards the understanding, which formed many determinations with the aid of Rashas nation. This, Alarka said, forms many determinations with the aid of Rashap. In a world where three great foes roamed free, a wise Brahmana shared ancient wisdom with his pupils. There are ninefold qualities, he said, 3 of goodness, 3 of passion, and 3 of darkness. He explained that exultation, satisfaction, and joy were the hallmarks of goodness, while cupidity, wrath, and hatred belonged to passion. Lassitude, procrastination, and delusion on the other hand were the shadows of darkness. The Brahmana's words painted a vivid picture in the minds of his listeners. They envisioned the ninefold qualities as distinct forces that shaped human destiny. He spoke of the man of intelligence free from procrastination, with a tranquil soul and senses under control, who could vanquish others with showers of arrows. This warrior-like figure was a beacon of hope for those struggling against the darkness. As the Brahmana continued to speak, his words transported his listeners to an era long past. They heard the tale of King Ambarisha, a monarch renowned for his tranquil soul and great fame, when the world was plagued by diverse kinds of faults, and the righteous were afflicted. King Ambarisha had put forth his strength to assume sovereignty. He subdued his own faults and worshipped the righteous, attaining great success. The Brahmana revealed that King Ambarisha had sung verses in days of old, a testament to his wisdom and spiritual growth. The king's words echoed through time, a warning against the greatest vice, cupidity. This insidious foe, urged by desire, led men into ditches without them, even knowing it. It made them indulge in forbidden acts, binding them with the chains of passion. The Brahmana recited King Ambarisha's verses, his voice filled with reverence and urgency. I have subdued many faults. I have killed all foes. But there is one, the greatest vice, which deserves to be destroyed, but which has not been destroyed by me, urged by the fault. This Jeva fails to attain to freedom from desirous. The words hung in the air. The listeners felt a shiver run down their spines. They knew they were being called to confront the darkness within themselves. The Brahmana's message was clear. Only by cutting off cupidity with sharp-edged swords could one escape its grasp. The consequences of yielding to desire were dire. Desire gave rise to anxiety, which in turn led to the acquisition of qualities belonging to passion. These in turn spawned the shadows of darkness, binding men to the cycle of birth and death. The Brahmana's words painted a picture of a never-ending cycle, where souls repeatedly took birth only to meet with death once more. As the lesson came to an end, the listeners felt a sense of awe and trepidation. They knew they had been given a rare gift, the wisdom to understand the true nature of sovereignty. The Brahmana's words echoed in their minds. In the scorching heat of a sun-kissed day, a Brahmana stood before King Janak, his eyes cast downward in reverence. The king's expression was stern, his voice firm as he spoke the words that would change the course of their conversation forever. Thou shalt not dwell within my dominions. The Brahmana, however, did not flinch. Instead, he looked up at the king with a piercing gaze and asked, Tell me, O king, what are the limits of your territories? I wish to dwell in the dominion of another king, for I am bound by the scriptures to obey your behest. The king's expression softened, and his eyes seemed to cloud over as he pondered the Brahmana's words. The air was heavy with tension as the king sat lost in thought, his mind racing with the implications of the Brahmana's request. But like a fleeting storm, the cloudiness passed, and the king's composure returned. He spoke after a brief silence, his voice now tinged with a hint of curiosity. Although my ancestral kingdom is vast, King Janaka said, I have searched far and wide, but I fail to find its true boundaries. I looked within myself, among my children, and even in the city of Mithila. But it seems that dominion is an elusive concept. A cloudedness of understanding came over me, but as it passed, I realized that perhaps my dominion is not limited by physical borders. Perhaps everything is mine, or perhaps nothing is truly mine. The Brahmana listened intently to the king's words, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. He asked, What understanding led you to this realization? How did you come to see that your dominion extends beyond mere territory? The king's eyes sparkled with a newfound insight as he began to explain. I have come to understand. King Janaka said that all conditions are transient and ephemeral. Nothing is truly mine, for it can be taken away in an instant. I recall the Vedic texts which say that anyone's property is not truly theirs. It is a fleeting concept bound by the whims of fate, and so I have come to see that my dominion is not about possession, but about non-attachment. As the king spoke, his words seemed to unfold like a lotus flower, revealing the depths of his understanding. The Brahmana listened with rapt attention, his eyes shining with approval. He asked no further questions, for he knew that the king had grasped the essence of the truth. And so in this moment of profound insight, the Brahmana revealed his true nature. Know that I am Dharma, who have come here today to examine you. You are the one person who has set this wheel in motion, a wheel that turns with the quality of goodness as its circumference and understanding as its. In a tranquil clearing surrounded by ancient trees, a wise Brahmana sat cross-legged on a woven mat, his eyes fixed intently on a young woman who stood before him with an air of trepidation. Her hands were clasped together in supplication as she spoke to the sage, her voice barely above. A whisper, "I see you, revered sir," she began, as one who moves through this world with great ease and compassion. "You are a master of the Vedas, a Foas recluse, and an observer of the duties of a householder. Your path is one of devotion and self-discipline, and I fear that I may not be worthy to follow in your footsteps." The Brahmana's expression remained serene as he listened to her words. He gazed at her with kind eyes, his voice taking on a soothing quality as he replied, "Dear one, do not judge me by my actions or the way you perceive them. I am but a vessel for the divine, and all that exists within this universe is a manifestation of the ultimate reality. Whatever creatures inhabit this world, whether mobile or immobile, know that I am the destroyer of them all. Just as fire consumes wood, as he spoke, his words seemed to take on a life of their own, filling the air with an otherworldly energy. The young woman felt her heart begin to expand as if it were being filled with the vastness of the universe itself. She saw visions of countless beings, all interconnected and interdependent, and understood that the Brahmana's words were not just a statement of fact, but a revelation. The sage continued, his voice weaving a gentle spell around the young woman. "This knowledge is my wealth, dear one," he said, "and it is the path that leads us to true understanding. It is not bound by symbols or modes of life, but rather transcends them all. Those who have acquired this understanding, no matter their circumstances, will eventually attain to the ultimate reality. Just as numerous rivers flowing into the Unseen become one with its waters." As he spoke, the young woman felt her mind begin to quiet, and a sense of tranquility wash over her. She saw that the Brahmana's words were not just a teaching, but an invitation to merge with the divine. The sage's eyes seemed to bore into her very soul, as if to guide her toward this realization. The Brahmana's voice took on a gentle tone once more, his words dripping with compassion. "You need have no fear of the world, dear one," he said, "with your heart fixed upon the ultimate reality. You will come to understand that it is not separate from yourself, but an integral part of your very being. Your soul will merge with mine, and together we shall become one with the universes." He finished speaking. A sense of peace settled over the clearing like a gentle rain falling on parched earth. The young woman felt. In a humble dwelling, a Brahmana's wife sat with her husband, seeking enlightenment on the mysteries of the universe. Her eyes shone with a deep longing to understand the secrets that lay beyond the veil of ignorance. She turned to her husband and said, "I am but a vessel of little intelligence, my mind clouded by the dust of worldly concerns. Tell me, dear husband, how may I acquire this knowledge you speak of? Point out to me the source from which it flows." The Brahmana's eyes sparkled with compassion as he began to explain. "My dear wife," he said, "the intelligence devoted to Brahman is the lower Arani, while the preceptor who guides us on our spiritual journey is the upper Arani. Through penances and a deep understanding of the scriptures, we can kindle the fire of knowledge within ourselves." The Brahmana's wife listened intently, her heart yearning for the wisdom she asked, "But where can I find a description of this symbol of Brahman known as Kshatrajna? How may I grasp it that I might understand its true nature?" The Brahmana smiled and replied, "Kshatrajna is beyond all symbols and qualities, without cause or origin. Yet I shall teach you the means by which he can be perceived. It is through a direct experience, like a bee perceiving the fragrance of flowers." She continued, "This understanding must be cleansed by action, freed from the impurities of ignorance and misconception. Those who have not undergone this transformation see Brahman as invested with attributes, whereas in truth he is beyond all limitations." The Brahmana's wife listened with rapt attention, her mind drinking in every word. She asked no questions, but rather absorbed the teachings like a thirsty plant drinks in water. As she sat in contemplation, the Brahmana's words began to take root within her being. Her understanding expanded, and she perceived the vast expanse of creation as an expression of the infinite Brahman. The boundaries of her mind dissolved, and she transcended the limitations of her own self. In that moment she became one with the ultimate reality. Many years later, Arjuna, the great warrior, sat at the feet of Krishna, seeking guidance on the path to spiritual liberation. He asked, "Where are those who have achieved such enlightenment? Tell me about them, O Lord." Krishna smiled and replied, "My dear Arjuna, my own mind is that Brahmana's wife, cleansed by knowledge, and freed from the bonds of ignorance. And I myself am Kshatrajna, beyond all attributes and qualities." As Krishna spoke these words, a deep silence fell upon the landscape. The very essence of reality seemed to manifest before Arjuna's eyes. He beheld the infinite Brahman shining like a sunburst in the firmament. In that moment he knew that in the stillness of a tranquil morning, Arjuna sat before his revered teacher Vasudeva with an eagerness to learn about the highest truth. His mind was aflame with curiosity, and he begged his master to explain the mysteries of Brahman. Vasudeva smiled benevolently and began to recount an ancient tale of a young disciple who had sought guidance from his wise preceptor. The disciple, eager to attain the highest good, asked his teacher a series of profound questions. "Where am I? Whence art? Though explain that which is the highest truth, from what source have sprung all creatures, mobile and immobile?" A preceptor, a sage with unwavering vows, listened attentively to his disciple's queries. He nodded his head in understanding, and with a gentle smile began to expound upon the nature of reality. All this was declared by Brahma himself. He said, "It involves a consideration of what constitutes the real entity. We regard knowledge as the highest object and renunciation as the best ends." The preceptor's words were a tapestry of wisdom guiding his disciple through the labyrinthine paths of existence. He spoke of the tree of life with its unmanifest seed sprout, its trunk of understanding, and its branches of high consciousness, cutting all topics with the sharp sword of knowledge. He said, "One attains to immortality and casts off birth and death." As Vasudeva continued his tale, Arjuna's eyes grew wide with wonder. He listened intently as the preceptor described the ancient rishis who had gathered around Brahma, seeking answers to their deepest questions. The grandsire himself spoke of the highest good, revealing that it was born from truth, and that penance was truth in action. Brahma's words echoed through the ages, guiding seekers on their journey towards enlightenment. "I shall now speak of those Brahmanas who are restrained by one another and possessed of knowledge." He said, "The wise say that religion or duty is one, though having 4 quarters." As Vasudeva finished his tale, Arjuna sat in contemplative silence, his mind reflecting on the profound truths revealed to him. The path to Brahman, he realized, was a journey through the modes of life, Brahmacharya, domesticity, residence in the woods, and finally Adhyatma, the highest step towards unity with the divine. In that moment, Arjuna's heart was filled with a sense of longing for the ultimate truth. He knew that he had only scratched the surface of the mysteries revealed to him by Vasudeva, yet with an open mind and a willing spirit, he embarked on his own journey towards enlightenment, guided by the wisdom of the ancient sages and the benevolent words of his revered teacher.
In the realm of ancient wisdom, Brahma, the creator of the universe, revealed a profound truth about the nature of existence. He spoke of a mysterious force known as darkness, which is all-pervading and eternal. This force is characterized by 3 qualities: darkness, passion, and goodness. These qualities are intertwined, influencing one another like threads in a rich tapestry. Brahma explained that darkness is marked by characteristics such as delusion, ignorance, illiberality, and unrighteousness. It is the essence of night, and its presence can be felt in all sinful acts. Those who embody these traits are said to sink into the depths of darkness, losing their way on the journey of life. As Brahma continued his discourse, he revealed that individuals who take birth in orders other than humanity, such as animals or beasts, may still have the opportunity to ascend to higher realms through the aid of purificatory rites. These acts of devotion and self-improvement can ultimately lead them to achieve human birth and eventually attain to the regions reserved for those who live peace. However, Brahma warned that attachment to objects of desire is a great delusion, one that even the wise rishis and munis are not immune to. This delusion, along with wrath, death, and other afflictions, can lead individuals astray from the path of righteousness. As the learned Brahmanas listened intently to Brahma's words, they began to understand the nature of darkness in all its forms. They saw how this mysterious force waves itself into every aspect of existence, influencing even the most seemingly insignificant actions. With each passing moment, the veil of ignorance lifts, revealing the true essence of reality. Brahma's words were a call to awareness, a reminder that true understanding and liberation can only be achieved by recognizing the presence of darkness within oneself. He encouraged his listeners to bear in mind the qualities mentioned, to strive for self-improvement and ultimately to transcend the limitations of darkness. For those who heed this wisdom, Brahma promised freedom from the characteristics of darkness is within reach. In the stillness that followed Brahma's discourse, the Brahmanas were left with a profound sense of awe and reverence for the mysteries of existence. They knew that they had been given a rare gift, the knowledge to navigate the complexities of life and emerge victorious in their journey towards enlightenment.
The sun was setting over the tranquil landscape as Brahma, the Creator, began his discourse to the esteemed Brahmanas gathered before him. His voice, like a gentle breeze, carried the weight of wisdom and knowledge. The quality of non-violence is but one aspect of passion. Brahma said, but it is not the only one passion. The all-encompassing force that drives humanity encompasses many qualities, each with its own distinct flavor. Brahma's eyes sparkled as he began to enumerate the various attributes of passion. He spoke of Raga, the pain and suffering that we inflict upon ourselves and others, and Sukh, the cold and heat that ravage our lives. He mentioned Dhamma, a power and lordship that we seek, and Krata, the fierce wrath that burns within you. As Brahma spoke, his words painted vivid pictures in the minds of the Brahmanas. They saw the beauty of Rati, the pleasure and joy that we pursue, but also the toil and exhaustion that often accompanies it. They heard of Dhamma, the might and valor that we strive for, but also the pride and arrogance that can accompany it. Brahma's voice grew more sullen as he spoke of the darker aspects of Pesukrata, the malice and cruelty that we inflict upon others, Maya, the deception and treachery that we use to manipulate and control. He mentioned Moha, the attachment and desire that bind us to worldly possessions, and Lobha, the covetousness and greed that consume our lives. As the Brahmanas listened, they began to see the world in a new light. They realized that passion was not just a force of destruction, but also a complex web of emotions and experiences that shape human existence. Brahma's words made them aware of their own flaws and weaknesses, but also of their potential for growth and transformation. The sun dipped below the horizon as Brahma concluded his discourse. The Brahmanas sat in contemplative silence, their minds reflecting on the multifaceted nature of passion. They knew that they had been given a precious gift, the understanding of the qualities that shape human experience and a path to liberation from their own passions. As they rose from their seats, Brahma's words echoed within them. The man who always understands these qualities succeeds in always freeing himself from all of them which are pertinent to passion.
In the presence of his esteemed disciples, Brahmana began to expound upon the virtues that comprised the quality of goodness, an attribute essential for all beings in the world. With reverence and devotion, he spoke of the numerous qualities that embodied this noble trait, including joy, satisfaction, nobility, enlightenment, happiness, liberality, absence of fear, contentment, faith, forgiveness, courage, non-violence towards all creatures, equability, truth, straightforwardness, absence of wrath, malice, and purity. As Brahmana continued to discourse on the qualities that define goodness, he emphasized the importance of detachment from worldly attachments. He explained that one who is devoted to the duty of yoga, renouncing knowledge, conduct, service, and mode of life as vain, attains to the highest realm in this world and the next. This path requires the cultivation of a profound sense of equality, where one looks upon all beings with an equal eye, unencumbered by desires or expectations. Brahmana then enumerated numerous virtues that comprise the eternal religion of the good, including confidence, modesty, forgiveness, renunciation, purity, and compassion towards all creatures. He also highlighted the importance of humility, good behavior, and righteousness in every action, as well as the cultivation of a tranquil mind through detachment from worldly attachments. As he concluded his discourse on the qualities of goodness, Brahmana emphasized that those who embody these virtues, living according to righteousness, and adhering to the wisdom of the Vedas are considered wise and possessed of correct vision. With their sins cast off and freed from grief, they attain heaven, where they can create diverse bodies for themselves. Brahmana's words were like a balm to his listeners' souls, imbuing them with hope and inspiration. He spoke of those who, having attained the power of governing everything through self-restraint, minuteness, and the operations of their own mind, become veritable gods capable of modifying all things. These high-souled ones attaining heaven modify all things by their very nature, enjoying whatever objects they desire. As Brahmana finished his discourse, a sense of reverence and awe settled over his listeners. They understood that to acquire the qualities of goodness was to attain the ultimate goal of human existence, to enjoy life without being attached to its fleeting pleasures, and so with renewed dedication and commitment, they set out on their own path towards self-realization, guided by the wisdom of Brahmana's words. In this way, Brahmana's teachings continued to inspire generations of seekers after truth, illuminating the path to a life of virtue, compassion, and inner peace. His legacy lived on a testament to the transformative power of goodness in the world. In a secluded setting, Brahmana began to expound on the intricacies of the universe. He spoke of the three fundamental qualities that govern existence: goodness, passion, and darkness. These qualities, he said, are intertwined and inseparable, each influencing the others in a delicate balance. He spoke. Brahmana pointed out that these qualities manifest differently in various living beings. In creatures of lower stations, such as animals, darkness reigns supreme, while passion is present in moderation and goodness is minimal. Conversely, in beings of higher stations, like the Brahmins, goodness shines brightly with passion and darkness present in smaller measures. Brahmana then drew an analogy to illustrate this concept. Just as the sun rising in the sky inspires fear in those who have committed evil deeds, while its heat afflicts travelers on their journey, so too do these qualities operate in tandem. The sun represents goodness. Its light, illuminating all the heat it brings, is a manifestation of passion, which drives change and transformation, and the occasional eclipse that casts shadows is a symbol of darkness, which can bring about destruction. As Brahmana continued his discourse, he noted that these qualities are not limited to living beings alone. They also exist in inanimate objects, such as luminous bodies like stars and planets, where they operate in diverse ways. Even the natural world is governed by these three principles. Darkness resides in immobile objects. Passion brings about constant change, while goodness manifests as stability. Brahmana then spoke of the cyclical nature of existence, where all phenomena are subject to the ebb and flow of these qualities. He explained that time itself is divided into three parts: the past, present, and future, and that each aspect of life, from the four seasons to the cycles of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth, is influenced by this tripartite principle. He concluded his explanation. Brahmana revealed that even the ultimate reality, known as pratana, is comprised of these three qualities. This unmanifest, eternal, and all-encompassing essence is beyond human comprehension. Yet it is the source from which all existence arises. Those who seek to understand this truth must first grasp the nature of the three qualities and their interplay in the world. In the end, Brahmana's words conveyed a profound message that true liberation lies not in transcending these qualities, but in understanding them as they manifest in every aspect of existence. By recognizing the interconnectedness of goodness, passion, and darkness, one may attain a deeper comprehension of the universe and ultimately achieve freedom from the cycle of birth and death. In the beginning there was nothingness. The universe lay dormant, untouched by the spark of creation. It was as if time itself had stood still, waiting for the first stirrings of life to emerge, and then from this unmanifest void a great soul arose, imbued with the essence of intelligence and wisdom. This Mahat, or great soul, was the source of all qualities, the fountainhead of knowledge and perception. As the universe began to take shape, the great soul stood tall, its presence felt on every side. Its hands and feet seemed to stretch out in all directions. as if embracing the very fabric of existence. Ears that listened to the whispers of creation sprouted from its sides, drinking in the secrets of the cosmos. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of its being, a scent that wafted through every pore of the universe, a great soul known by many names, Vishnu, Jishnu, Samyu, and others, stood at the heart of all things, pulsating with an energy that seemed to know no bounds. It was the source of fame, courage, and memory, bestowing these gifts upon those who sought to understand its nature. The great soul's power was boundless, a symphony of minuteness, lightness, and affluence that filled every corner of existence. As the universe unfolded, the great soul revealed itself in all its glory. It stood as the Lord of all, shining with an effulgence that knew no decay. Those who comprehended the nature of this understanding, the true essence of reality, were drawn to its radiance like moths to a flame. They were those who practiced meditation, and devotion to goodness, who had subdued their senses and conquered wrath, who possessed knowledge and wisdom. These individuals, freed from attachment and egoism, began to see the world through the lens of the great soul's understanding. They beheld the universe as an interconnected web of relationships, each strand woven into the fabric of existence by the great soul's hand. As they gazed deeper, their hearts filled with a sense of wonder and awe, for they had caught a glimpse of the Supreme Being, Vishnu, the self-born Lord. In this moment of insight, these seekers transcended the boundaries of their own understanding, merging with the great soul in a union that was both fleeting and eternal. They knew in that instant that they were not separate from the universe, but an integral part of its grand tapestry, and as they returned to the world, their eyes shone with a new-found light, for they had beheld the highest goal of all persons, endowed with understanding, the great soul. From that day forward, these individuals lived in harmony with the universe, their footsteps guided by the wisdom of the great soul. They walked the path of righteousness, their hearts filled with compassion and love, and as they journeyed through life.
In the ancient tradition of Indian wisdom, a revered sage named Brahmana spoke with reverence and awe about the mysteries of creation. He began by describing the first manifestation of Mahabharat, being known as egoism. This primal energy burst forth as I am marking the beginning of the second creation. As Brahmana's words wove their way through the air, his listeners leaned in, entranced by the tale unfolding before them. With each breathless phrase, they felt themselves transported to the dawn of time, when the universe was still unfolding its secrets. Egoism, Brahmana declared, was not just a force, but the very source of all creatures. From its infinite modifications sprouted the diversity of life that surrounded them. With eyes that glow, Brahmana painted a vivid picture of this primordial energy. It is pure effulgence, he said, his voice trembling with reverence, and is the supporter of consciousness. As if conjuring a vision from the cosmos itself, Brahmana revealed egoism's true nature. It was Prajapati, the creator deity, who had brought forth not only gods and goddesses, but also the very fabric of reality. Brahmana's words hung in the air like incense, filling the hearts of his listeners with a sense of wonder. He spoke of how this eternal energy created the three worlds, earth, atmosphere, and sky, infusing them with life and vitality. With each phrase, Brahmana drew his audience deeper into the mystery, as if they were standing at the threshold of creation itself. As he continued to speak, Brahmana revealed that egoism was not just a creator, but also a sustainer. It was the power that animated all beings, guiding them through the cycles of life and death. It is that which feels. I am all this. Brahmana intoned his voice like a prayer. That is the eternal world existing for those sages who are contented with knowledge relating to the soul. In this sacred moment, Brahmana's listeners felt their own souls stir within them. They knew they were part of a greater tapestry woven from the same thread that had created the universe. As Brahmana finished speaking, his words dissolved into the silence like mist at dawn, leaving behind an unshakable sense of awe and reverence. The sage's words lingered in the hearts of his listeners long after he fell silent. They knew they were part of a world where egoism, that primordial energy, pulsed through every living being. It was the spark that ignited consciousness, infusing each creature with its own unique essence. And as they returned to their daily lives, Brahmana's tale stayed with them like a gentle breeze, reminding them of the eternal, all-encompassing power that lay at the heart of existence. In this world where egoism reigned supreme, every being was connected, from the smallest insect to the vast expanse.
In the beginning, Brahmana spoke about the origin of the universe. He said that egoism was the source of creation, and from it emerged the five great elements: earth, air, ether, water, and light. These elements are the building blocks of the world we experience, but they are also what delude us in our perception of reality. As the elements are dissolved, at the end of each cycle of creation and destruction, all living beings feel a deep fear. Everything that exists is eventually reduced to its source. Just as children grow up and return to their mother's womb, the wise ones who possess powerful memories never lose themselves in this cycle. They understand that sound, touch, color, taste, and smell are mere effects of the elements, fleeting and illusory. Brahmana then explained how the five great elements are connected with our senses. Space is associated with the ear as it receives sound, air is linked to the skin as it touches objects, light is related to the eye as it perceives color, water is tied to the tongue as it experiences taste, and earth is connected to the nose as it detects scents. We delve deeper into the nature of creation. Brahmana introduces us to the 11 organs that arise from egoism. These include our senses: ear, skin, eyes, tongue, and nose, our limbs, 2 feet, 2 hands, lower duct organ of generation, and speech. Among these, the 5 beginning with the ear are connected with knowledge, while the rest are associated with action. The mind is considered a part of both knowledge and action as it moves within us and between us and the external world. The understanding or intellect is the 12th organ, which impels our 6 senses to function. Brahmana also explains how egoism, the source of all worldly life, is connected with consciousness of self. We are born in various ways. Some emerge from eggs, others from germs that penetrate through the earth. Some are born of filth, while others develop inside wombs. These modes of birth are fourfold and reflect the diversity of creation. Brahmana also describes the inferior beings that live in the sky and those that crawl on their breasts. As we explore the nature of action, Brahmana teaches us about the various types of sacrifice, gifts made at sacrifices, and the duty of stui for every individual. He explains how understanding this doctrine brings one to possess freedom from all sins and true happiness. The learned men who grasp this knowledge unite their senses, objects, and great elements within themselves. In the end, Brahmana shares with us the path to renunciation. We must treat qualities as mere qualities, be free from attachment, live alone, recognize no distinctions, and cultivate a sense of Brahman within ourselves. This conduct brings happiness, peace, and release from all desires.
In the realm of creation, there existed a vast array of entities, each with its own unique characteristics and qualities. The Brahmana, a wise sage, began to enumerate these entities, highlighting their distinct attributes among men. He said, "The royal Kshatriya is endowed with the middle quality." He paused for a moment, then continued among vehicles. The elephant holds this distinction among denizens of the forest. The lion reigns supreme and among all sacrificial animals. The sheep stands out as he spoke. His eyes wandered to the natural world. The Nagrata, Jambu, Pipala, Salmalai, and Sinsaba trees are the foremost ones among trees. He declared, and among mountains Himava, Petapatra, Saya, Paintaya, Tricutavat, Switat, Nila. Thasa, Koshtavat, Guraskanda, Mahendra, and Malayavat hold the highest honors. The Brahmana's gaze then shifted to the celestial realm. Surya is the lord of all planets. He announced, while Chandramas reigns over all constellations. He continued to list the various entities that held dominion over their respective domains. Emma as the lord of the Pitras, Asin as the ruler of rivers, Varuna as the king of waters, Indra as the monarch of the Maruts, and Agni as the eternal lord of the elements. As he spoke his words with a tapestry of interconnectedness, revealing the intricate relationships between these various entities. Sacrifice is the foremost of all initiatory rites, he said, and Mahabharat holds sway over the deities. The Brahmana's voice grew softer as he continued to enumerate the many lords and rulers that governed the world. Finally his eyes settled on 2 figures who stood above the rest. Prajapati is the lord of all creatures. He declared, "And I, full of Brahman, am the foremost among entities." The Brahmana's words took on a sense of reverence, and he spoke of Vishnu, the great god, who is full of Brahman, and the king of kings over all. He is the ruler, the creator, The uncreated Harite, the Brahmana, declared the sage, paused for a moment, then continued to speak of the goddess Maheswari, also known as Parvati, who was revered by those who followed their desires. He spoke of the Apsaras, the female beings of great splendor, and the various entities that were associated with different aspects of life. He concluded his enumeration. The Brahmana turned to his listeners and offered a message of importance. Kings are desirous of acquiring pati, he said, and Brahmanas are causeways of pati. He emphasized that. In the midst of a serene forest, Brahma sat cross-legged on a stone pedestal, surrounded by the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft chirping of birds. His eyes sparkled with wisdom as he began to speak in a tone that was both gentle and profound. I shall now reveal to you the secrets of the universe, he said, his voice carrying across the forest like a gentle breeze. The day was first followed by night. The lighted fortnights came before the dark ones. The constellations emerged with Sravana as their first sign, while the seasons began with winter's chill. As Brahma spoke, the creatures of the forest seemed to lean in their ears, perked up in rapt attention. The earth is the source of all smells, he continued, and water the essence of all tastes. The solar light gives birth to colors, while the wind stirs sensations. Within a space or other is the origin of sound. As Brahma's words echoed through the forest, a young student named Sitaketu listened intently. He had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, and was eager to learn from the great sage. Brahma's gaze turned towards Sitaketu, and he smiled knowingly. The sun is the first of all lighted bodies, he said, and fire, the primal element that fuels our existence, Savatri, is the foundation of knowledge, while Prajapati stands as the supreme deity. As Brahma spoke, his words wove a tapestry of creation and destruction. The cerebellum is the essence of the Vedas, he said, and prana, the life-giving wind that flows through all living beings. The Gayatri meter is the most sacred of all, while the Go stands as the first of all sacrificial animals. Vitakitu's eyes widened with wonder as Brahma continued to reveal the secrets of the universe. The twice-born ones are the pinnacle of human evolution, he said, while the hawk soars as the first of all birds. The pouring of clarified butter on the fire marks the beginning of sacrifice, and the snake stands as the first of all reptiles. As Brahma's words reached their climax, Sritaketu felt his mind expanding with understanding. He saw the intricate web of creation and destruction that bound the universe together. The Krita is the first of all, as Brahma said, and called the most precious of all metals. Barley stands as the first of all plants, while food is the fundamental necessity for all living beings. Water, the essence of life, flows through all creatures. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the forest, Brahma's words came full circle. The unmanifest is the source and end of all worlds, he said, his voice carrying on the breeze like a gentle lull.
In the vast expanse of existence, a majestic wheel turns, its motion governed by the laws of time and space. The wheel of life is a complex entity comprising multiple components that interweave like threads in a rich tapestry. Its strength lies in understanding the pole that holds it upright, being the mind. The senses form its bonds, while the five great elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, serve as its mave home. With all its joys and sorrows forms its circumferences. The wheel revolves. It is beset by decrepitude and grief. Its body, racked by diseases and calamities, its rotations are marked by the passage of day and night, each cycle bringing new challenges and experiences. The wheel is buffeted by heat and cold, pleasure and pain, furring its joints like sparks on a blacksmith's anvil. Hunger and thirst serve as nails that pin it down, while sunshine and shade create roots in its path. Despite its turmoil, the wheel remains ever revolving, void of consciousness. If bound to the cycles of time, it is measured by months and half-months, its pace changing with each passing moment. The wheel's motion is influenced by penances and vows, which serve as mud that holds it together. Passion's force drives it forward, while the great egoism shines the light on its path. Vexations caused by unfulfilled desires bind it around like chains that restrict its movement. The wheel revolves in the midst of grief and destruction, yet is sustained by the qualities of compassion, forgiveness, and detachment. Is characterized by actions and instruments of action. Its size and scope boundless, as the universe itself, cupidity and desire render it unsteady, while variegated ignorance creates a maelstrom of confusion. As the wheel turns, it is attended by fear and delusion, causing suffering for all beings. It moves towards joy and pleasure, yet also towards wrath and destruction, composed of entails ranging from that to the gross elements. It is characterized by ceaseless production and destruction. Its speed is akin to that of the mind, which serves as its boundary. The wise sages recognize this wheel of life for what it is, a complex entity associated with pairs of opposites devoid of consciousness. They advise us to cast away our attachments, abridge our desires, and check our impulses. The man who understands the motion and stoppage of this wheel is never deluded among all creatures, for such an individual, freed from impressions and pairs of opposites, released from all sins, the highest goal is within reach. The four modes of life, householder, Brahmachar, enforced recluse, and mendicant, have been said to have the householder's mod as their foundation. Whatever system of rules is prescribed in this world, its observance is beneficial. The learned Brahmana with a pure heart should, in a distant land where the sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of crimson and gold, there lived a young man named Brahmana. He was determined to follow the path of spiritual growth and self-realization as described in the ancient scriptures. With a burning desire to attain enlightenment, Brahmana devoted himself to the rigorous life of a Brahmacharan. He spent his days studying the sacred texts with utmost dedication, poring over the pages of knowledge that held the secrets of the universe. His mind was like a sponge, soaking up every word, every phrase, and every concept. He would often sit in silence for hours, lost in contemplation, as he sought to understand the mysteries of existence. He progressed on his journey. Brahmana's physical appearance began to change. He grew matted locks on his head, which became a symbol of his spiritual growth. His robes were simple and coarse, made from linen or cotton, and he wore them with humility and detachment. A staff made of vilwa or palasa wood was always by his side, serving as a reminder of his commitment to the path. Brahmana's diet consisted mainly of alms food, which he would collect on his rounds of mendicancy. He would never rejoice at receiving gifts, nor would he be depressed if none were forthcoming. His mind was focused solely on achieving spiritual liberation, and he knew that attachment to material possessions would only hinder his progress. As the seasons changed, Brahmana's life still adapted accordingly. In summer, he would move from place to place, seeking shelter in forests, mountains, or under trees. He would never stay in one place for too long, lest he become attached to it. His path was guided by the sun, which illuminated his way and reminded him of the transience of life. Brahmana's days were filled with simple, yet profound acts of devotion. He would perform ablutions with pure water, washing away impurities and cleansing his body and mind. He would offer oblations to the deities, pouring libations on the sacred fire and seeking their blessings. His senses were subdued, and he lived in a state of detachment from the world. As he wandered through the forest, Brahmana's heart filled with compassion for all living beings. He saw himself in every creature, and his actions became guided by the principle of non-harm. He would never accumulate wealth or possessions, nor would he covet gold or other material riches. His sole desire was to attain enlightenment, and he knew that true freedom could only be achieved through detachment from worldly desires. Brahmana's life became a testament to the power of spiritual discipline. He walked the path with humility and reverence, seeking guidance from within, and without his heart remained pure, his mind clear, and his actions guided by the principles of truth, simplicity, and compassion. And so he continued on his journey, ever closer to realizing the ultimate goal of self-realization.
In a distant land where the air was filled with the whispers of ancient wisdom, a revered sage named Brahmana sat in contemplative silence. His eyes seemed to hold the weight of centuries. As he began to speak, his voice carrying on the gentle breeze like a prayer of the ancients, he said, "Who had pierced the veil of truth, proclaimed that renunciation is penance. It is through this path that one attains the highest knowledge, for it is only by letting go of the fleeting and the mundane that we may grasp the eternal." As Brahmana spoke, his words wove a tapestry of meaning, drawing in the listener like a river flowing to its destination. Those who had walked this path before us, Brahmana, Continued were those who dwelled within the realm of Brahman, where knowledge was not mere understanding, but a living, breathing entity that coursed through every cell. They had transcended the pairs of opposites, shedding the skin of duality. Like a snake sloughing off its old self, these sages were the embodiment of wisdom, their minds unencumbered by the weights of passion and darkness. Their eyes, like those of Brahmana, shone with an inner light, illuminating the path to the Supreme Lord, who was identical with the path of happiness. And P.C.'s Brahmana's words danced in the air. A young seeker listened intently. He had heard of this path, but had never dared to tread it. Now, as he sat at the sage's feet, he felt an insatiable hunger to follow in their footsteps. Brahmana's eyes seemed to see right through him into the depths of his soul. A learned man, he said, who beholds association and dissociation and unity and diversity, is released from misery. The seeker felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized that this was not